we are back with another episode of Close Encounters. Today, we are going to be talking about something that has been burning in my brain for a really long time. Since we got out of COVID, everyone's going back into the theater, everyone's going back to see concerts and live shows. But what has been really bugging me is the ticket price has been insanely it's not going any lower, right? You would think that with COVID, people will be a little bit more empathetic, but I don't think ticket prices are reflecting that. As you know, contrary, they really just keep going up, 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 and up. And I don't know if you guys have noticed it. And I think this is a big, broad conversation to have today because your guys are finishing school, and I want to get your thoughts about your access to tickets, but also not just from the cultural sides of performances and live performances, but also on the commercial side, because even on the commercial, side of the business, it's just, you can't get anything for less than like $200, and it goes all the way up to like thousands of dollars. And even like for $500 ticket, you're like in nosebleed seats. And if you're going into the opera show, opera productions or theater or Broadway or a symphony orchestra, they're not cheap tickets anymore. They're not really affordable. I'm at a point in my life where I could say, okay, now I could actually try to spend some cash on some tickets, but still at $200-$300 a pop, and you're going in a family of like 3 or 4, that's really, really expensive. Like, I can't even just justify that, right? I mean, for you guys, like, where do you see it? Like, how is it preventing you from seeing concerts, and how many concerts and types of concerts or live performances that you guys go and see?
So I actually wanted to talk about this issue, and what I think is the root of the problem is the insane amount of reselling that is going on. It's actually crazy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of concerts that I want to see like all the time. I set an alarm, right, for the release date and time,
so I
can get the ticket right away. But when I get on the site like Ticketmaster or whatever, first of all, they put you in a line, and then after you get to the end of the line, all the tickets are already gone right away. But it's not the people who have bought them, it's the resellers. And then they are selling them for like thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. It's impossible sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost like you have to, even if you're a member, like I remember last year I tried to get, because Blackpink, the K-pop girl group, it was coming to Saudi, and I really wanted to go see it. And they're telling you when it goes on sale. And there's very different levels, right, of when you can go and buy the tickets. Obviously, I'm not a member or their fan, or I don't join their fan club, so I have to go the regular, on sale date. That day, they want you, again, going through Ticketmaster. I wasn't in town to do that. I was traveling for work, so I had my husband do it. And he was same thing. He was in line for 2 hours. And then by the time he got in, like, all tickets were sold out. Like, I find that to be really, really ridiculous. And the amount of ticket price, like the resellers, I mean, I know like in the pop world, they have these things called the dynamic pricing, which is a new strategic, ticketing practice. So the dynamic pricing is kind of like airline tickets, right? So it fluctuates based on the popularity. So obviously the more demand it is, the price will continue to hike up because it's now controlled by the resellers. I think that is more in the pop world and the very, very commercial driven, concerts. But in terms of where we come from, like live performances in theaters and even like, going Broadway is not a cheap date anymore. It's not like, and even like going to ticket, on Broadway, to Times Square to buy in the ticket box, or what is that thing called? Trying to get cheap tickets. It's like, it's not even that easy to get them anymore. Like, I remember you say you got a chance to get free tickets to go see an opera, right? A couple of months ago. But you were lucky you got free tickets to go see it. If you think about trying to go to a Met Opera, those tickets starts like around what? $150 going all the way up to like six, seven, even $1,000, depending on the production.
I think they go for a little cheaper than that. It depends on the seats. If you want to sit all the way on the top, all the way in the back where you don't see anything, maybe you'll pay 75.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like for $75, I still can't see a thing and I still need a binocular. I mean, how is that even justifiable? For example, you guys at this stage in your career, especially as musicians, the point is to go see as much concerts as possible, right? That's part of your growth as a musician, as an artist. But if you're being priced out, where are you getting those access points?
That's a very good point. I mean, I know a lot of people my age, they don't tend to go as many concerts because, like, concerts, attending, those at prestigious venues like the Met Opera or Carnegie, they cost money. In order to make sure that you're able to pay for those tickets, you have to work, which makes you have less time to see the concerts in the first place, right? Because a lot of the times you're working during concert times. So I feel like it's for students, and only for students, it's a little bit easier because of the fact that there are a lot of student discounts that you can have access to. But once you finish school and you're in that position, well, I'm not a student anymore, but I'm still not all the way there with money. It's hard. I try to make it a point to go at least to the Met Opera a few times a year, but the tickets are the tickets are expensive. You have to really be a big fan, I want to say, or you have to really be well off to just be able to spend the money without any issues.
These big venues are like just sort of a once in a while thing, but I think more often we students or just graduated people, we like to go to like the smaller venue stuff, or like musicians or artists that we know, where tickets are like maybe $15 to $30
or free admission.
Or free.
Studio recitals, studio concerts, in schools, right? That's usually free admission. Those are a lot of the concerts that we attend in order to support our friends too.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point, right? Because then you're not really getting a balanced audience, right? Like the student obviously the students like the studios and, like you said, the student concerts. Then you're really then is this then that cycle of the audience, is it just then always going to be locked into a certain pool? Because if you're a student concert, then you're really just targeting your friends and your families, right? The public isn't really going to come out and come and buy the tickets to go see it unless you're a really avid classical music fan. Like for example at Merkin, you can basically, I don't know what their rental price is, but as a musician, you can basically rent that space. Back in the day, it was actually not a lot of money. You can rent it for like under $5,000 a night, right? And then you're just you sell tickets, they'll put you on their series and their calendar as part of, Carnegie Hall series. But again, I think unless you're an avid classical music concert goer, then you probably wouldn't be trying to buy tickets to see those concerts, because they're probably ranging anywhere between like, $20 to like $50 or $75, or at most $100.
I kind of want to jump and just mention something else. You were talking about commercial music earlier. And just like Annie said, she was saying that, she has a timer set up so that she could buy tickets, right? So I guess the real question is, how, like, does this really deter people from listening to classical music? You know what I mean? Because does the price deter new fans from possibly emerging, right? Because I mean, like, I was just talking with one of my friends yesterday, and they want to try to buy tickets to see the World Cup, and he's saving up money right now so that he could try to get a ticket, and the ticket price is probably going to be $2,500.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, well, the price is, not a concern to me. I'll save up the money because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And it's like, well, there you go. So like, compared to that, is $50 really that much? That's kind of
right.
Like the
perspective. So I think that's the thing, right? Like these live performances, and the reason why on the commercial side, this whole entire dynamic pricing is not going away, is that because there is a demand. Somehow there is enough hype, and especially with everything so tied to the internet and social media and that kind of world, it's almost as if you don't get to go see it, you're losing out or you're missing out, right? Because everyone is posting about it. And so if you're a big fan, or at least, or even if you're not a super fan, but the fact that you're so inundated with all of these posts, now you have this FOMO kind of attitude, and now it's driving you to, now I need to go and buy the ticket to go see this so I don't feel I am being left out. And that's why these kind of prices are not going to come down. I was like doing some reading the other day, and then they were saying that, yeah, like ticket prices for this year is not going to be any cheaper than last, or it's not going to drop at all. In fact, it's going to probably be more expensive than the previous year.
Do you think that people who might not be able to afford tickets to concerts just might migrate to other concerts at venues that have affordable tickets or more affordable tickets?
I mean, I think so. At some point, if you are someone who really goes to live performances, then you'll find something you want to go try and see. But again, we beg to have this discussion of like, are we so wired on a device that we no longer want to go see something live? Even though live will never go away, but is there a pool of people that will say, well, you know what, I just can't afford it? Like Taylor Swift's tour is now in the movie theater. So for them, maybe they say, well, you know what, I don't really mind. I can't afford it, but maybe going to the movie theater to see the entire documentary or the entire recording of the tour is going to be enough for me because it's within my price point. Or they wait until this whole entire tour is released on Netflix or whatever channel, whatever. We're so bombarded now that unless there is an entire, hype about certain things, I feel like people are not going to be easily swayed. Going back to the cultural side, I think the ticket model is slightly different because we certainly don't have the dynamic pricing, right? Because that's not based on demand. Like on the cultural side, it's all based on a venue, because the entire ecosystem, the economics of how the cultural sector is structured is not based on ticket prices, right? It's based on donations, based on memberships, based on board members giving money to the organizations, to the institutions. So even just thinking about that, going back to where we are, like coming back, it's like you have A-level artists or A-level companies that's charging exorbitant amount of money, where a venue is really only at max like 2,000 seats for an opera house. But imagine like presenting an opera costs millions and millions of dollars. You think, what kind of price point are you going to charge for one ticket that's going to ever make up the revenue of that? For a seat that is only seats maybe 2,500 or 3,000 seats. The math will never add up. And because they're so relying on donation. But the price point of the ticket is still quite high. Some of them have the last minute ticket, like last minute sale that they're coming up with creative ways, like Carnegie Hall or Lincoln Center.
Like rush tickets, student
like
rush
the
tickets.
rush tickets, yes, exactly.
Yeah, I used to get those.
Oh, really? And were you lucky to get them? Like, have you been able to get them?
Yeah, a few times. It was for New York Phil at Lincoln Center, and it was like Mondays or Fridays only.
Okay.
And then we would have to get on really early and claim the tickets.
Yeah. So like those rush tickets, how much cheaper are they?
They were pretty cheap. Oh, I don't remember. Were they like $10, $15? I don't know.
Okay. Or like, for example, a lot of venues or festivals or series is doing the pay as you please model. For me, when I see that, I feel like there's a guilt in me where I still feel like I'm not just gonna go and not pay, but I'll probably still pay, at least like $20, $30. Right? But even still, for other people, that might be a lot, and they may just be, oh, okay, fine, I'm not gonna then pay anything. I'm not sure. I haven't gotten to the psychology of that yet, but I remember I was speaking to one institution and they've implemented that, and they did say that it was quite successful with what they've done, which is they've seen a 30% increase in audience participation, and they also saw an increase in people that would never normally come to their performances. I mean, I guess it's like, the Met Museum, right? You pay as you wish as a New Yorker.
That's exactly what I was just thinking of.
And then I remember I took my family last year to go and I think the ticket price was like $30, right, to enter per person. And I was like, I can't not. I mean, like for me, I was like, okay, fine. I still ended up paying like $15. Like my cousins have said they've gone and they're like, yeah, just pay $1. I was like, what? Maybe that's the psychology. Maybe they just feel like you'll feel guilty enough that you'll pay at least 50% of what would be considered the normal ticket price.
I paid $0 in high school. Because I used to go to high school like a block away from there. So I used to sometimes just go there just to, kill time. And I was very broke in those days. I mean, with my $70 allowance per week, which was for food.
That is probably the point of the system, to sort of balance things out, to let people who wouldn't, maybe not be able to go normally be able to go, and then the people who can pay more. So I'm thinking like for concerts and stuff, but they probably won't do this, but I don't know, maybe like once in a while, if they have a concert like this where people can pay as you wish, you could gain like maybe new fans or audience members who never would have come in the first place, and maybe they'll think about buying a ticket in the future.
Yeah, I think it's all still a new model that everyone's trying to figure out how to find the right balance to retain audiences, but also to gain new audience members. Like you guys are just at the start of your career, and so you have to be very picky about what kind of performances you go see and not see, and the variety of performances, because there's so much going on. I mean, living in New York City, you can basically go see a show every single night and you still will not be done with all the live performances that occurs in that, just within like Manhattan in itself. We're not even talking about other parts of the 5 boroughs. You could literally go see everything every single night, like 7 days a week, and you will still not run out of shows to like live performances to see. It's an overabundance of choices that actually can become very paralyzing. And so when you're in that point, you're like, okay, what do I choose to see, and where am I going to put my dollar, and how much dollar I have to put? Which also then, and then of course us being in the business, we're always requesting for free tickets too, right? Like comp tickets. And even, I still try to ask for comp tickets, but is that setting a bad precedent too, right? If you imagine like from the cultural side and you're trying to go see an artist who's working, this is their way to make money, right? So by getting a free ticket, are you devaluing their worth on stage?
I never thought about that.
I mean, obviously there's an allotment for a venue, for a presenter, for a festival to be presenting the artist. Obviously they also need to, make money off of ticket sales. But also for us as goers, right? As musicians yourself, if you're constantly giving away tickets, how does that make you feel as well on stage? We can also say, oh, like Yo-Yo or Lang Lang doesn't need to make any more money. But still, it's an attitude. I think it's still an attitude type of thing. Yeah, they're making so much money, getting free tickets it doesn't hurt him either.
But it does hurt whatever venue that they're
Yes,
performing.
Exactly. And then that results into this cycle again of people trying to constantly ask for free tickets. Of course, it's an ecosystem that is never going to give away. That's not going to go away. But it's like, how much of an extent are you allowed to do that, right? Like, for example, I know actually in venues like in Taiwan, the 3 major national theaters, like employees don't just get free tickets to go see a show. Like if you want to go see even your own presented show at the theater, you have to buy them.
Mm.
Yeah. But then they're also part government owned. So I think there's part of that where you're not really allowed to do that. And I think that's a good practice, because that's also how market is developed, right? Where I also struggle with this concept of concerts that are free. Because if it's free, are you devaluing the artist?
It depends if the artist is getting paid.
The artist will get paid. Of course, the artist will get paid. but they're saying to the audience, you don't have to pay for the tickets. And what does that mean when an audience get to see something that they don't have to to pay for? Right? Are they going to take it that seriously?